Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 238. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the highly talented writer of comics, screenplays, novels, and short stories, Phoebe Xavier.
Phoebe. Hi, Barney. Thank you for having me on.
I'm pretty excited to talk to you about your latest novel that just came out, that's available now as of this recording, Superluminal Latency, which is now available in Kindle form. You've been writing since 5th grade, correct?
Oh, yeah, about.
So talk to us a little bit about how you kind of got started into the writing genre and which writing genre, because as we mentioned, you write screenplays, you write novels, you write comic books. Which one do you seem to gravitate more towards?
I really like comic books. It's really rewarding to hold a comic book in my hand. As if 10-year-old me knew that I had made 13, 14, 15 comic books, 10-year-old me would be like, "What? That's incredible!" So yeah, it's pretty cool to be a comic book creator. I think that it also takes a little bit more resources though than to write your own screenplay or your own short stories. And a little bit easier than putting together a novel. But yeah, so I'd say since I was reading science fiction very early in my life and comic books early in my life, that's why to this day I write them both.
You've had a pretty successful run on one of your comic book series, Sidereal Apogee. Do you want to talk to our audience a little bit about that?
Superluminal Latency is a 17 short story collection, and it is my first book. And it's been 20 years in the making. That the first two stories were written somewhere around 2003, 2004. And it's connected to Sidereal Apogee, my first comic book, which we have 6 issues completed of. In that, like, some of the stories share the same universe, the same continuity. I have it takes place at approximately 2450 to 2460 AD. And it is a human society that spans the solar system. And they've colonized the asteroid belts and the the biggest moons of the gas giants. Mars is actually more populated than Earth. And the people that control the universe are an organization, or the solar system, are an organization called Solcor. And it is a police and law enforcement and court system, judicial system set up by the biggest corporations in the solar system. So it's a very dystopian, depressing sort of future to look forward to.
And I'm really curious too. So this is an amazing website that you can order these off of indieplanet.com. You can get these books at a pretty good price as well. And those are like the print on demand books, like $5 for one of those.
It's print on demand. The paper is incredible on those books, actually. That's glossy, like fairly hard stock paper. And you see a dinosaur on the cover there. So the story with the dinosaurs being in the future is that I explained that they did a sort of Jurassic Park type thing at some point, and then they broke out of the zoo. They were in a zoo in Boise, Idaho, that a whole bunch of dinosaurs broke free during some war. And so that's why she's being chased by a Tyrannosaurus, who looks slightly like a chicken, because that's what Tyrannosauruses are. They're giant chickens.
So talk to us a little bit about your other series that you've written for as well.
So I put a couple of stories into our espionage book, Gunmetal Black Ops. I think, did I have a story in the first one? I know. Oh yeah, I wrote the cover story for the first one. I kind of created that book. It's an espionage and assassins kind of anthology. And I created that book for a space for my friend Frederick B. Roseman to put his characters, and those are the 2 ladies on the cover, and that's Black Cauldron and Jade Lion, and they are an assassin team, and they're also really sexy ladies, and they're also a couple.
Did you meet Jeff Haas through this? Because I see that he's also one of the writers.
Oh, I mean, yes. Okay, so I met Jeffrey through a Facebook forum called Comic Book Anthology Creators, which is where I posted an ad query of sorts and was like, does anybody have an 8-page assassination or espionage story? And so Jeff wrote this, or he pitched me this story about a guy that would be sent to hell to kill the devil, and like as an assassin from heaven sent to hell to kill the devil. And I think the only notes that I had on his pitch was, yeah, but just give him a gun, because it's in the title of the book.
That's amazing. And so, but you also had a successful Kickstarter a little while ago about the 13th Moon, which is a Halloween anthology, correct?
It is, yes. That's a horror anthology for Halloween based centered. And that was my first successful Kickstarter that I did like on my own as part of 123 Go Publications, our comic book brand. And I was very, very happy to just barely eclipse the goal. And I still have at least a few copies left of my own that I printed up a stash of them for myself to sell. But yeah, I think we sold about 150 copies on that initial Kickstarter.
You kind of you have an image in your head when I think about the titles of your books that really kind of make me want to learn more about the stories. For instance, we just talked about Sidereal Apogee, Raining Devil. One of them is like your most recent book that just came out, as we're talking about, which is more of a novel, a collection of short stories that you've written over the years, Superluminal Latency. What does that title mean? That's interesting.
So superliminal is almost like the opposite of subliminal, like instead of being understated, being overstated, and and latency meaning like with a delay or an echo of some sort. And I think I picked that title based on like how long it's taken me to put the collection together. That I've been writing all along, but it's like, okay, now put this body of work out, and like maybe people will like what you've written in the last 20 years. But at least like, know that you weren't writing for no reason. Now you can present it to an audience.
Now, do these short stories take place within the same universe as your comics then, you said?
Some of them are. It comes down to stories usually that are introduced with a location in the solar system and a timestamp with the words Terran Standard, meaning Earth Standard Time. So it's like 2452 Terran Standard, like as recorded from Earth. And so both in the comic books, Sidereal Apogee, both in Sidereal Apogee and the novel, a lot of stories will start that way, and that's a good way to know that you're in that continuity. But there's also a number of stories in there that are not in that continuity.
What genre do you find yourself easiest to write for you?
I think I gravitate towards the cyberpunk, towards sci-fi. I like to do a lot of research into real things in the real world that are either technology that is being developed, could be developed, real facts about real stars and asteroids or planets. I used to contact NASA a lot. Before the Trump administration, it was pretty easy to send an email to somebody in NASA and they'd be like, oh yeah, I will tell you everything I know about Venus. That's so great. You want to know about Venus. And like, so you could talk to like really professional experts, professors that are studied and learned in those things. So I did do a lot of research at times that I was getting my descriptions of things directly from scientists who spend their whole day studying shit like that. So yeah, sci-fi is probably my favorite genre to work in. Although at the moment, what I'm working on is getting into more surrealism, and I'm working on writing magic realism stories.
Do you have to use a different part of your creativity to talk about more of like a science sci-fi side of storytelling as compared to like a magical version of storytelling?
I don't know. I don't have I don't really have my imagination compartmentalized so much like that. I think that when I come up with a good idea, I will jot down some notes on it, and then if more of it comes down to me, I'll start writing more on top of that, and then sometimes I have the beginning of a story. The story I'm working on right now is called Bluetooth. It's about King Harald Bluetooth, the first king of the Danes, first king of Denmark. And for a day or two, it just sat there with like the title and like, okay, so it's a biography of Harald Bluetooth. And like, I knew where I wanted to go with it, and it just sat there for a day or two. And then I researched a little bit more, and then I went back and wrote like 2 pages because I had to have some factual knowledge to go in and have anything to write about. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos about him, and kind of had a better feel for where my story was going. And 3 or 4 days, I had like 4 pages in mostly doing what I'm doing.
Well, and wasn't now that Bluetooth, that's like the sign Bluetooth is actually runic for Bluetooth, right?
It's the combinations of the words B and T, I think, or Harold and Gormason is his last name. So I don't know, or it might be B and T combined. But yeah, those are Viking runes that we use on our phone. That is the symbol. Yes.
That's funny. It's almost like a combination of what you're talking about, of like magic and sci-fi, when you actually have runic symbols on like digital work.
Yes. So and that's kind of where the story goes and where it winds up is that when he dies, even though he died as a Christian, he doesn't go to Christian heaven or hell or Nordic Valhalla or hell. Instead, he finds himself trapped in our modern times with his soul being pulled in every which direction. And because he feels songs and information passing through him as he's used as a conduit between devices and speakers.
So somebody that writes different in different mediums, do you ever start writing down, do you finish a story, then kind of decide or finish an idea to say, this would be a better comic script, or this would be better a long form, or this would be a better screenplay? How do you decide what genre you're going to make that story into?
So yeah, not so much by genre, but opportunity, I think.
Okay.
That when I'm trying to get something printed, like I have a story called The CG Rendered Man that I wrote in the past year, which is kind of an homage to Bradbury. But a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I can pitch right now to this horror sci-fi magazine. Do you have anything that you want to pitch to them?" I was like, "Yeah, give me a week." I wrote the story and like gave it to him. But I had that idea for this story sitting on my computer for 4 years, and it was probably going to go into a comic book instead at some point. Actually, I had it like marked down to go into Sidereal Apogee number 10 or 11. And but it was like, hey, if I have a chance to publish this now, then let me do that now. In a vice versa sort of situation, my story in 13th Moon Volume 1 is called Escape Pod. And that one I had, I was pretty sure I was going to write it as a short story. And then there was a anthology that asked for a pitch, and I felt that that story was good for the pitch. So I paid Renan Baltamont to do 4 pages of it, and we submitted it to that. They rejected our story, so I published it in my own book.
Wow. Now, what are some of the benefits that you've seen, because you've worked on a lot of anthologies? What advice would you give to writers on either writing your own long form story, write short stories, or be a part of an anthology? What are some of the benefits of all of those?
I think anthologies are a great place to get a break into indie comics these days. Advice on how to do that is write concise stories. If the big time anthology is going to put you in their book, they're going to put you in their book because they like your idea, and it only takes up 1 or 2 pages. They're not going to give 8 to 10 pages to someone they've never worked with before, that they don't know to have the time and energy to deliver on their schedule as demanded. Like until they know you're reliable, you're not reliable, you're a gamble, but they might give you a chance at 1, 2, or 4 page story. So yeah, initially keep it short, keep it simple. For long form and for short stories, I would say, and this applies to submitting comic book anthologies as well, is grow thicker skin. You're going to get 20 rejections for every acceptance. Like I write pitches and essentially metaphysically, psychically just burn them. Just like, this is never going to happen, but I wrote the pitch, send it in. And like, if you're waiting on every response letter, like, ooh, maybe this is the one, you're not built for this. Everyone can't be the one. Yeah.
Right. Now, where do you see, for instance, do you prefer actually being a participant in an anthology, or do you prefer actually being kind of like the project manager in an anthology?
Either way works for me. Right. I've been a part of 2 really big anthologies. The Modern Mythology that was Modern Mythology anthology that was 2 volumes of it were put out on Kickstarter by Caleb Palmquist. And I just contributed a story to each one. That's, that was easy breezy for me from my end. He actually linked me up with the woman who was my artist on those stories, and she's still part of my 123 Go publications group. Federica DeTizio, she's brilliant. What's the other one? Oh, I'm now I have a story being featured in Florida Manthology that hasn't gone live yet on Kickstarter. but I have the concept of that book is there's so many of these Florida man stories that we both have some that are actual retellings of real like headlines and some that we just made up like, hey, would be a thing a Florida man would do. And so that's kind of the fun of the book is like guessing which one of these are real or not.
Yeah, there's something about, I remember somebody saying you can just like type in your name, your birthday, and then type Florida man, and there's bound to be something happened on your birthday that says there's a title about Florida man.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, no, Florida's crazy. I've lived there a number of times over the last decade, and Florida is a crazy place.
So talk to us, how many stories are actually in the superliminal latency, and what can people expect from that?
There is 17 stories. There are 17 stories. Is in terms of how page count, I think it's predominantly sci-fi, cyberpunk. There is also, as we mentioned before, a bit of erotica in some of the stories, but those are shorter stories and only a handful of the stories. There's a lot of action and suspense, and yeah, I had a really fun time writing all of it. My favorite one is called The Slipstream Fiasco, and I think that's where I kind of got this hankering to do a surrealist type of writing. And to me, that was one of the trippiest stories in the book. One of the main characters in that is a character named Herbert the Walrus, and he's just a walrus that hangs out at this bar drinking all the time, and he talks and he's dressed like Sherlock Holmes, and it's just like nobody acts like there's anything weird about it. It's just like, that's Herbert, you know?
Did any of these stories ever have you inspired to turn that into either a screenplay or another comic book or something along those lines?
Yeah, a number of these characters either started as short stories, then moved into sidereal apogee, or came from sidereal apogee, and then I wrote a story about them that is now in superliminal latency. So yeah, once again, it's a two-way street on that.
Right, man, that's amazing. So, what kind of advice would you give to authors or people that are writers that want to get into finding an artist for a comic book script? What advice would you give them on how to find really good artists?
Well, to find them, they're on Facebook. There's like 20 different groups, and there's different like maybe populations and population distributions in these groups. But other than go to the Facebook comic book creator sort of pages, also save your pennies and nickels because the better artists like cost more money.
If you find a really good artist, and there might be another writer who says, "Hey, I love your artist," how territorial should writers be, or should writers in wanting to share their artists?
I mean, I don't think that. I think you should want the best for your artist and get them other gigs if they can get other gigs. I think that in indie underground comic book creation as it exists in 2023, yeah, people are going to. Well, it takes a long time to get some books done sometimes. Just because you found an artist doesn't mean they could do the 20 pages you have written in 2 months. It might take them 2 years because they have all these other gigs. And I think it's good to encourage that type of this is what I was going to say. The way that indie and underground comics exist right now is that artists make money, writers make money if they can sell it. But the artists have to be paid up front. You still got to do the sales side of things to make money.
The writers get paid last, then, basically.
Oh yeah, if at all. 123 Go Publications. With any luck, we will be putting out a number of new books this year. Marek, Reigning Devil, what you're showing right there, issue number 3 should be out this year. There's also a Marek one-shot that we've been working on that's called Marek in Pride's Maw. And that's the first time that I wrote a story about Marek. Up to now, it's all been Jeffrey's stories. But I had an idea that I pitched to him that I was like, hey, do you like this? I want to do this as a Marek one-shot. He was like, does this fit into your worldview of like where this character is going and everything? And Jeffrey liked the idea. So with the same artist that is the main artist in the Marek series, I'm working on a one-shot. Also, Gunmetal Black Ops number 4 should come out this year. And 13th Moon Volume 2 and hopefully Volume 3 will both be launched this
year. All of these are the projects that you've been working on then?
Yeah, and I mean, all those I wanted to finish last year, but other things came up.
We talked about some of your prose and some of that. There are some connections, but is there an overarching universe that Reigning Devil, Sidereal Apogee, Gunmetal Black Ops. I know they're inside there. There's separate stories, but is there reoccurring characters that happen from, say, Reigning Devil? Can they be seen in any Sidereal Apogee stories? Anybody in Gunmetal Black Ops can be seen in, say, a Reigning Devil story. There's any Easter eggs that you kind of throw in there?
There's definitely always an opportunity for characters to appear in the different books. Yes, I'd say that the Sidereal Apogee universe is more of a inside the whatever that weird spiral thing that Evil Morty broke out of. I forget what that was, but
Like a wormhole or something, or
no, like a continuity, a certain universe, like the Marvel universe, MCU or whatever.
Okay.
So Sidereal Apogee has a very well defined and contained universe, but there can be espionage stories in that, so they might appear in Gunmetal Black Ops. There could be horror stories in there. So yeah, actually, my story Escape Pod in 13th Moon Volume 1, even though it's in our horror anthology, takes place in the Sidereal Apogee continuity.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what made you decide to release Superluminal Latency straight off as a Kindle read, and not necessarily as a Kickstarter, or putting out as a book that someone can go out and purchase physically?
Well, they are going to be able to physically purchase it on 123 on indieplanet.com/123go pretty soon. But as far as why I put the Kindle out as quick as I did it as soon as I could. As soon as I had like a working document version of it that my editor said, yeah, I think everything's right, let's go. I put it up there as quickly as I could. And yeah, because like I said, it's been 2 decades in the making, and even this editing process has been going on since like the first COVID lockdown. So.
Wow. So talk to us a little bit about the editing process. How important would a writer, if a writer says, you know what, I got $300 on me, where do I spend that $300 if I want to get my book published?
Yeah, I would say, okay, so right now I'm spending that amount of money approximately on a woman who is reformatting the script, my final PDF for Kindle. That they kind of botched some of the spacing. So even though the story's all there, the way that I wrote it, kind of like it gets extra tabs at certain places. And so I hired a woman recently who is a professional at this, and that is reformatting specifically for Kindle.
And what about editing? How important it is to find an editor to proofread your books?
Yeah, no, this book would not be what it is without Joseph Cervellin, who is my editor, and that is also not necessarily cheap. So yeah, be ready to pay a respectable rate to your to people that you need to properly put out a professional book.
And so what's next then? And you mentioned, Phoebe, earlier that you do have some sequels to your existing series coming out. And they can buy all of these right now on Indie Planet right now, correct?
Yeah, and not only just buy them, both Trouble #1, 13th Moon Volume 1, and Gunmetal Black Ops #2 are available for free digital download. You can download them right now for free.
Oh wow, okay. And then once they kind of get that taste, they're able to then go ahead. And as I was saying earlier, there are some amazing prices on here. A lot of people, when you look at Kickstarters or you look at trying to purchase some of these things from other sites, you're talking about close to $10 per book. But here, as we said, this is a great deal. As you said, some of them are free, but some of them right here are like $5 for the book. That's an amazing price for a full comic book.
Yeah, I think Sidereal Apogee #5 is like almost 40 pages, and it's like $5.50. Like,
Wow.
I basically pay everything up front so much that once I'm get it in its final form, then I'm like, yeah, let's price it like a regular comic book. I burnt that money when I paid those artists to make that. Like, I knew this was a passion project. I never expected to be as big as the Marvel universe.
Is there any thoughts on having some sort of like one shot where you have, say, like Marek and then Trouble, like, to some of these characters actually kind of cross pollinate and be in like a comic book together? That'd be fun.
I do have some ideas for where the Moloch universe might interact in the future with other ideas of mine that I have in motion. But as far as a definite interaction, none of that is in the books yet. None of it that has been written.
So as we said, that the book itself is available. You have Superluminal Latency is available as of this recording. It is available now on Kindle, and as Phoebe mentioned, it will be available in print form on indieplanet.com soon. Definitely check out her stuff. It is some fun writing, some great genres that we just mentioned earlier that take place in here, and there is probably some of the most creative anthology stories that I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind.
Yeah. So Phoebe, if people want to learn more about your work, what's the best place they could go to?
Learn more about my work, I would say Google Phoebe Xavier, and there'll be like 15 podcasts at least that pop up that I've done in the last few years. You can listen to me talk for a while. I don't always say the same stuff, although you have to repeat your origin story sometimes. And yeah, but yeah, go to indieplanet.com/123go is usually the place to buy our books. On Facebook, we have a 123go Publications fan page, sort of, and Facebook just changed fan pages again, and so it's my business or something, and they just confused me in the last week. I don't know, but I'll be posting more on there now. I also have an Instagram that I hardly ever use. It's at Phoebe123go.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Phoebe. And listen, when you get your another anthology coming out, you can jump back in. It's so great to see that you work a lot with Jeffrey. That's amazing.
The next thing that I personally am going to kickstart on 123go is probably going to be Viking Saga of the North, which is a historical accounting of the Viking Age that was envisioned by my friend Jose Ernesto Diaz. He's out of Guatemala. And we have honed that down to a 22-page comic book, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be our first bilingual book that we're planning an English version and a German version, because one of the co-creators is based out of Germany and has a lot of like ties to academic studies of the Vikings. And so Jose managed to get 2,000 followers on Instagram in like 5 months, just by posting cool Viking stuff and adding anybody who is interested in Vikings. So like we have a big audience ready for it in Germany as well. So we're going to do an English version and a German version.
That's awesome. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I got to come back on for that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's Viking Saga of the North with an underscore under each word.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Phoebe. It was great talking to you.
Thank you for having me, Barney.